Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it's probably not the best way to spend an afternoon sitting in a lecture hall and listen to people talking, and some of it very interesting and some not. I'm going to try and make it as interesting as possible. In order for me to start, or before I start, does anybody know, or how many people know, what the relevance of this brand new £5 note is to today? Has anybody read the newspapers this morning? Sorry? Yes, it is, because for those who don't know, it's very controversial at the moment because it's not vegan friendly and vegetarian friendly. There's some animal fat or whatever, something used in there. And the reason why I thought I brought this along is because we are talking about innovations today, and this new note is it's an innovation, and it was driven because of a need. It's not new to it's new to the UK, but it's not new. The other countries, Australia, and those also have that. But I thought that was really interesting when I saw that this morning. So. There we go. So I thought we'll kick off with why am I talking about pre-Brexit rather than post-Brexit, because everybody's talking about what's going to happen after. And I just think that's important that we actually don't rush ahead and just know that there is some time. One of the reasons is that the big red button hasn't been pushed as yet. When that will happen, we don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. There is huge economic uncertainty and growing inflation, and that chart on the on your right is a graph of the pound versus the dollar in June when the Brexit result came out, and it still hasn't recovered. So there's a lot of volatility in the currencies. There's global political unsettledness. In our own country, it's now stabilised a little bit, but not necessarily to where it should be. Everybody knows about what happened in America with Donald Trump. There's a lot of referendums and elections coming up in Europe, and there's a lot of unsettledness. There's no clear strategy. And one of the things I said this morning, one of the things that somehow get my back up a little bit is when I hear people say the government didn't have a strategy before we've gone to the voting polls to vote about Brexit. And I've asked a few business leaders in meetings, and what was your strategy? Because it didn't come as a surprise. But the reality is that whether the government or the business and industry and the manufacturers or any of the industries in our country had a strategy is actually the truth. That was not the case. So surely this is not a good time then to talk about innovations, isn't it? It's all doom and gloom. But if we look at history and we look at some of the innovations that come out of really difficult times, and these are not as difficult times as we are not living now in as difficult times as when these came out. So drones and air traffic control and portable X-ray machines came out of the First and Second World Wars. So it was dire circumstances, but that was a breeding ground for really good, and there's many initiatives that we could look at, really good breeding ground for innovations. With the economic crunch and the economic collapse, there was recent examples of innovations is apple crisps, and we had a lady this morning who talked about that, or fruit crisps, or where farmers had excess and they have stock that is not particularly attractive to the wholesale, to the retail, to the supermarkets. So they've started doing their own crisps. There's diversified farming, so dairy farmers starting to do ice cream, or farmers converting some of their property into bed and breakfast to generate more income. And then contactless parking. So in terms of the next 4 years, 2016 to 2020, what can we do? What should we do? And for me, there's one key thing. We don't know what the future is going to look like. We don't know what tomorrow and next year and the year after is going to bring. But surely we have to have a strategy in place. And when I was preparing for this talk, I realized, and when I looked at everybody who's speaking, it's very much focused on this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is how we do it. And I wanted to come from a different angle. The company that I work for, Harbour & Jones, is a contract catering company, and they've been known in the industry for many years, since conception, as a very vibrant, innovative company. And I will share some of the things they do and that we do with you. But it really is, for me, was the opportunity. This is an innovations forum, and I asked myself, is this preaching to the converted sort of thing? But it's really just to actually challenge us to think, how can we actually take part in this? How can we be proactive? Our country's economy will need that, but our own survival as businesses will need that. And it's really just to bring a little bit of focus, a holistic view of this whole day in terms of innovations. So what do we want to achieve? Change. And Thomas Smith said innovation is any change, big or small, that makes a difference. Now, I would probably vary that a little bit to say positive change, because not all change is necessarily good, but there needs to be change. And we need to adapt to changing needs in order to survive, and not only survive, but also thrive and to grow. So we need to ask questions such as, what will make our customers go, wow? And it doesn't need to be a big thing. It doesn't need to be a massive thing that changed the world, but small little things that will really tick the box for our customers, say, yeah, that is great. The truth is also that our country and the world's demographics are changing. And I suspect if we look back in 50 years to where we are now, I think the demographics will have massively changed across the world. People are moving, people are immigrating, there's refugees, there's lots of things, there's wars going on, and the demographics will change. And now we can either fight that, or we can say, how do we embrace that? How do we prepare ourselves to be ready for that? What is the market asking for? What's the industry? What is your industry asking for? What are the things they really have to have? And I remember a few years ago, while I was with a different company, quite a few years ago, when pole and line caught tuna in spring water came out in the retail packs. It was all these small ones. You have the catering packs, but not in spring water. It was in brine or in water, or I can't remember what, and oil. And we then decided, actually, there is a gap in the market. So we worked with the supplier, and I'll come back to working in partnership, worked with the supplier to identify where they actually sourced their tuna from. It was the tuna product. And we actually brought that tuna into the country. And we were the very first, at the time, the very first contract caterers who actually brought that in. And today it's a standard product, but we had exclusive rights for, I think it was a year or 2 years, where it was only through us. And it's those kinds of things. What is the people asking you? What do they need and what do they want? We need to look at opportunities that, in the lead up to Brexit, what's going to follow Brexit? What's going to happen after that? We need to think outside of the box. We need to think about global trading. And maybe you're just a small supplier or small manufacturer or small company. But it's about what can we do going forward. Technology, we need to maximize technology through our sourcing. Communication, and I'm not even going to touch on that one, because all our innovations need to be linked and driven by the communication and the way we communicate that, and technology plays a massive part in that. And I read in the newspaper, some of you may have read that, I thought that was really interesting, that they reckon that within, or by 2050, we will have virtual clothing stores, and we will try on virtual clothes, and they will have a virtual person. And I was thinking, shall we have virtual foodies then? I don't know. But it's really this whole thing of innovation. There's things going on outside of our world, and we need to tap into that and see where we can go and where that will lead. So there's just some of the demands and things that people ask for. So how are we going to achieve our goals? And this is really where I want to pause just for a few minutes. There's a lot of talk, and many of the seminars I've listened, there's very knowledgeable people and businesses who can help you drive innovation and help you identify what you need to do. And there are, in most of the talks, it is about you have to take the marketing team with you, you have to take the bean counters, the accountants with you, and you have to take the creative people with you in the business. In where I've put stakeholders, it really is an opportunity for us to see who are the people in our business, not necessarily on management level, but who are the people in the business who really understand the business and know what's going on. And very often we get really good creative and innovative ideas there. And we don't, or can get it, then we don't tap into that market. So that's just one of the things I thought will be something I would like us all to go away and just have a think about. Who are the people in the business? How involved are they? So in our business at the moment at Harbour & Jones, we've got an innovations forum. It's not called the Innovations Forum. I wanted to go something like Innovations Forum. There was a Dragons Forum, but it's called Potting Shed at the moment. So we invite small suppliers or small manufacturers or some of our wholesalers, big suppliers, who know of small and innovative manufacturers or farmers or whoever. And they send their detail to us. There's a dedicated email address. And we've got a panel who then look through all of this and decide, well, there's 9 people that we want to see once every second month. And they come and they present their products to us. And we say, yes, we think that will work or not. And in that group, we have marketing people, we have operations, we have site managers, we have the food director, we have procurement, we've got health and safety, a group of people, and some of the people just on site who knows their customers, and they are the ones who say, actually, you know, that will work, or actually, no, that won't work. And once we've agreed what those 4 or 5 is that we want to go ahead with, that then is left with the procurement department to make that work, to make the commercials work, to set it in the supply chain. So involving the people in your business can give you an advantage in terms of knowledge and expertise that you may not know about. I'm absolutely passionate about working with suppliers. I think that's why I'm procurement director. I believe that often businesses miss opportunities for innovation and for growth because they have an adversarial relationship with their suppliers. And particularly in this market where we are at the moment, it is an area and it is a market where we need to work in partnership with suppliers. And I've seen from past experience where if you work in collaboration with your suppliers, if you tap into their knowledge, and if you allow them to tap into your knowledge, it really forms a partnership that can drive innovation just that step further, just that gear change further than what it is in doing it on your own. And at the moment, with food cost inflation going up the way it is, and suppliers coming to knock on the doors, and I mean Unilever imposing or trying to impose the 10% increase in Tesco's is a prime example. And Tesco's pushed back, and I think everybody's very happy about that. I think that was great. The fact is they still had to take a massive increase, and obviously that's not publicly knowledge. But that is the environment we live in and we work in. And it's really now the time for the buyers and for the businesses to work in partnership with suppliers and actually say, how can we work around this? How can we mitigate some of these increases? How can we do product re-engineering? How can we do portion control better? And that's where innovation comes from. So often we look at the things that's just in front of us, rather than tapping into the expertise that is available to us as businesses. Manufacturers as well, they've got a wealth of experience, and often it all depends on which market you are. And in our industry, in the contract catering, in the size that we are, we don't often have direct relationship with the manufacturers. We go through a third party. That doesn't stop us having conversations and relationships with manufacturers. Other wholesalers, other businesses can actually have that direct relationship with the supplier or with the manufacturers to actually try and come up with innovative ideas of how to reduce the cost and the impact to their business. One of the examples that just springs to mind is a relationship that we have with a supplier, not a small supplier anymore, but it started off, the relationship that I had with a supplier started off probably 8 or 9 years ago as a very small retailer. And we started, and we allowed them to supply into 2 of our sites, and they honoured our request not to contact the rest of the business. So when we actually looked at a bigger category, they were one of the contenders, and they actually won the tender for that. And we worked with them over the years in terms of driving innovation, and they were our first port of call. We had monthly meetings with them to say, this is what we're looking for, this is what the market is telling us, this is what our intelligence is saying to us, this is what we think we want. What are you finding in your business? And we were the first port of call for many, many years, the first port of call for any new products that landed on their doorstep. They would come to us first and say, this is what's out in the market. And often we were the first ones to have it on our shelves in our restaurants, even before anybody else has seen it. But it's because of that relationship. Probably about 2 years ago, I started getting concerned about them. And I thought, because a lot of other suppliers have grown up and tagged onto what they were doing. I thought, I'm not sure they're going to survive this. And then I heard they were starting to do some manufacturing of their own products, and they were exporting that. And just not too long ago, I heard that they actually bought a company which is totally outside of their sector, but which is a fantastic complement to their sector. And I thought that is a great example of, in a business, not only product innovation, but in business innovation, how do we stay one step ahead? How do we keep driving forward? Again, think much wider, look at the internet, what's going on in England, what's going on in Ireland, what's going on in Scotland, what's going on in Wales. I work in close partnership with Invest NI in Northern Ireland to look at innovations and products that we can bring into the UK. What's going on in Europe? What's going on in other countries? I've mentioned that before. What's going on there? Where can we expand and how can we work? And then collaboration is the key for me, whether it is with internal stakeholders, whether it's connecting everybody together, it's working in collaboration. That's the only way, I believe, that we will be able to really and truly drive innovation in the lead up to Brexit. It's going to be a challenging time. It's going to be a time of great unsettledness, whether we go or whether we not go, whether they decide to reverse the vote or not. Whichever way it goes, it is going to be a time of political and economic unsettledness, and to be ahead of the curve, we need to be innovative. So then, to conclude, actually, I just wanted to read that. The innovation point is the pivotal moment when talented and motivated people seek the opportunity to act on their ideas and dreams. And that just comes back to my point about individuals and getting people involved. What does success look like? Make sure you measure whatever you're set out to do, and the responsibility, there has to be responsibility and accountability. So my main focus, or my main theme this afternoon is, you hear all these things, you speak to all these people, and maybe some of you are part of the exhibitors sitting here. Let's go away from here, not only taking away what other people are doing, but actually really thinking, how can I implement that? How can I make that work in my business in order to go forward? So, to summarise, just to finish off, Brexit should be seen as an opportunity, not a challenge or a problem. Innovations in pre-Brexit environment requires a more focused approach. And that really is my message today. Be innovative in the way we approach innovations. There won't be time for questions, but if you would like to have a chat or have any questions, I'll be around outside. Thank you very much for your time.